Our society, our way of life is being run more and more by algorithms that's ultimately curating, creating content that is popular and content that is not, what you should see and what you should not, and what we're learning, and the bigger ramifications on this, whether done on purpose or by accident, is that, of course, our misery is creating profit for those individuals benefiting off of this algorithm. We're going to get into this, plus a lot more, specifically how Mark Zuckerberg is in trouble with the FTC, and, surprisingly, how Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez actually did something good that deserves to be commended. But before we do, I want to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart for going to wearechange.org/donate, and because of your support on our donation page, I can't even get in there personally myself. Holy cow, I gotta fix that a little bit later. But yeah, and it probably works for you, or our store, or our donation page. Because of your support, we're able to be free and independent. And if it wasn't for you guys donating and signing up on our email list, the algorithm that we're going to be talking about is not going to be recommending, of course, us to you, which they've been doing less and less of. And gee, I wonder why, since we've been criticizing big tech monopoly companies, since 2008, even I think way before that, but specifically even confronted the former CEO, Eric Schmidt of Google, and I could go on about how many enemies we made in the tech sphere, but regardless of that, this content is too important not to bring up because it affects us in so many different ways. Not only with our privacy, not only with, of course, Mark Zuckerberg calling for more government regulation recently. Why? Because his hand got caught in the cookie jar, stealing all of our private information, selling it to the top corporate bidders by his algorithm, which of course made him a lot of money. But not just because of that, not just because of those basic levels, but because of our mental health. And here we have the story that I can't believe I'm saying this, but actually shows how Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I believe, did something actually worth mentioning and worth giving respects to. She, a couple of days ago, on April 16th, announced how she is quitting Facebook because she called it a public health risk. Now, this is important because she's still on Twitter, she's still on other social media networks, still does really interesting kind of live stream where she's on the floor eating weird stuff and like drinking wine and trying to be relatable and all the PR moves. But Facebook is the platform that she decided to call a public health risk to everyone and publicly quit. This is huge. This is very, very big, since, of course, she is gaining in popularity, mainly because of the mainstream media obsessing about her. But here, with this larger move, she brings up an important aspect. She also publicly announced that she's going to be cutting back on Twitter and Instagram. But Facebook, the main kind of crackhead social media tech monopoly out there, she's fully quitting, which is pretty much the equivalent of crack online, in my own opinion, of course. She said, quote, "I think it has effects on everybody," she said. "Increased isolation, depression, anxiety, addiction, escapism." Quote, "I personally gave up Facebook, which was kind of a big deal because I started my campaign on Facebook," Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said, "and Facebook was my primary digital organizing tool for a long time. I gave up on it." Quote, "I started to kind of impose little rules on myself," she added, "like every once in a while, you'll see me hop on Twitter on the weekends, but for the most part, I take consumption of content. When it comes to consumption and reading, I take the weekends off." And that's not easy. Here, just to make it in the digital sphere, because of the algorithms, because of how competitive and difficult this landscape is. I've been working nonstop every single day for quite a while now. I don't even remember the exact date that I started doing this, but started doing 4 videos, even sometimes 5 videos, including longer live streams every single day recently. And I even noticed personally myself a rise in anxiety, a rise in more negative thinking patterns that it's hard to deal with because my livelihood kind of depends on here. My livelihood is slowly being bled away with demonetization, with being downranked in the algorithm from when we were previously able to speak the truth without getting hurt for it. But also there's other aspects in me that I believe I could be doing something better. And it's an internal dialogue that is bringing a lot of confusion into my life right now, just for pure public transparency into this matter, and why I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did something right here, because I am seeing negative effects on social media in my own personal life. This article even mentions how there was a recent study released that found that Facebook has had a negative effect on some users' physical and mental health, especially women, and there have been many warnings from Facebook executive and Google executives and staff that are saying, hey, This is dangerous. This is weaponized. This is meant to be addicting, like ultimately gambling. A lot of gambling psychology has been implemented in social media, and a lot of top executives forbid or strongly limit their children from using social media, while, of course, the average parent on the street, you look, literally, just gives a phone to their little kid in order to keep them quiet, which I believe is abhorrent, to say the least. Now, what does this tell you, where you're having high-level executives at these tech monopoly companies who have gained an unfair market condition because of government help, when their executives, they're people who brought us this innovation that could be wonderful and amazing at times, but also as wonderful it is, it could be just as destructive. What does it tell you when these top people who are responsible for giving you this power are the ones terrified of it to have it in their children's hands? And I think, in my opinion, we are literally reaching a crisis point, just like this Guardian article lists, and specifically states how 8 out of 10 teachers say that mental health among young children in England has deteriorated in the past 2 years, with rising reports of anxiety, self-harm, and even cases of suicide, of course, creating a problem that school systems are inadequate to deal with. Because how do you deal with this new emerging problem that is becoming more prevalent by the day and becoming more addicting, even negatively affecting some of the most looked up to individuals in our society, like NBA players, who even the NBA commissioner is coming out and saying, hey, there's a mental health problem, which he thinks is linked to, of course, Twitter and Instagram, social media use, with this other headline saying they're amazingly isolated. Is social media making NBA players miserable? There was a ton of exposés in mainstream media companies, like this one from the Wall Street Journal, saying the NBA even has issues with social media now. Adam Silver, social media anxiety play a role in NBA stars being unhappy. And for me, I bring up a very important lesson, as I duplicitously also share this message on social media of all places, but where else can we have a voice? And that is particularly that in marketing, if you're able to invoke emotions, especially in the news business, emotions of anger and fear, you're able to get articles to be shared more. So this has been spurred on by, of course, media agencies trying to, of course, fearmonger to get your attention, to get your clicks, to get you watching their advertisements on one incentivized aspect. In a second, in a marketing aspect, if you're able to also invoke those same emotions, you're able to invoke actions that make people not look internally into themselves, try to fix problems in themselves, but also be irrational because of the high emotional buildup that, of course, makes people look to outside things. Look for, of course, either experiences, food, products, or slave-made little goods to fill in that void that is created by conditions that are manipulated in the algorithm that evoke certain feelings and emotions, which Facebook particularly studied and looked into and knows that it has the power to manipulate the way that you feel. Now, again, some people say that this is all happening by accident, which again could be a possible scenario, but in my book, understanding how a lot of these corporations started, how they run, how they operate, I do believe that some of this is on purpose, because if you're able to break someone down, make them feel fearful, and again, putting them in a low vibrational state, you're able to take advantage of them. You're able to use them. You're able to profit off of them more than if you have a strong individual who is a free-thinking individual. And this is why I also think there has been such a strong attack against independent media like myself, when, of course, time and time again, I'm being attacked. I'm being literally persecuted, literally attacked, because I called out Russian collusion as being fake 3 years ago, and I have been calling it out. That's what literally Wikipedia now lists as evidence, me saying, hey, this Russian collusion doesn't exist. This is what they link as evidence to say that I shouldn't be trusted as a source. No one should use me as a source, even though I'm on the ground. Again, I'm digressing here from the original topic and original bigger point I'm trying to make here. And that, of course, is what we're seeing online by social media is being manipulated. Independent thought is dangerous to their bottom line. It's dangerous for them to make money. This is why independent media is attacked. Discredited media that has been caught lying time and time again, not just about collusion, banker bailouts, and war, but lie to us every single day. That's why they're in partnership working with, of course, shoving their content as much as they can down your throat, because they are part of that incentivizing of that fear. And this is creating an ultimately despotic situation where people are miserable. And I think they're miserable more than ever before because of this duopolist system where we have government incentivizing these private corporations incentivizing mainstream media companies that, of course, are creating and building this problem in their own ecosystem that, to me, is done on purpose to subjugate us to their control. Again, that's just my opinion, that end part there. And that's why I'm making this video about the larger psychology, the larger things that are happening that you probably don't notice that are likely going to be suppressed anyway. And again, they thrive off our own physical state, trying to, of course, get a dopamine drip, get a satisfaction drip, rewiring our brains, just like pornography, which also had a huge boom on the internet, to, of course, change our biology to be little obedient empty slaves that are dependent on them for our dopamine drip and any form of pleasure, which has been bastardized and turned into the opposite of what human life should be. Again, here, look, the pull of dopamine is so strong in some individuals that studies have shown tweeting is harder for people to resist than cigarettes and alcohol. There's a reason there's no debate about this. There's a reason a lot of people are not talking about this. And again, if you guys don't even get to see this video, it's because of the algorithm. But if you do, I hope it's an important one for you to at least comprehend, to understand how to limit your usage, unfollow your guilty pleasures, do something productive, and of course, maybe even take a social detox, as this socialmediaweek.org article recommends, which I would also recommend as well. I want to thank everyone one more time for supporting independent media on our website. There's many ways you could do it, because again, if you guys weren't here, we're definitely not supported by the same buttholes that are creating this problem, and solving this problem means that there's going to be a lot of retribution in one form or another. There's a lot of things that I could be doing better that I'm doing my best at to recognize, and together, only with your constructive criticism, only with your participation, could we really be the change that we want to see in this world. And that's why I understand that, and that's why I love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.